Hello, I am author Eileen Stavel, author of the Kep Westgard Time Travel to the American Revolution series, and we are coming up on the 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's Ride. So today I'm going to share with you a short passage that was hard to write, to be honest. One of the hardest parts for me when I researched the American Revolution is dealing with the issue of slavery. And I think there's two parts to that. One is the glaring contradiction between the idea of liberty and freedom and the idea of slavery. And that's hard to absorb. But I think also as a woman and as a mother, I think the fact that of women and children being who already would have been so vulnerable to be in a situation like that, it's just honestly hard. But we can't turn a blind eye to it. And I think the two can coexist. We can think of the good that our country has done and stood for, and there's a lot to be proud of. But I don't think we can turn a blind eye to the fact that slavery is existing in the United States at the same time. So I had researched Paul Revere's Ride, and there was a reference to something called Mark's Cage, and I had no idea what on earth was that. So I researched it and I included it in a very short little piece because I think we have to look at all aspects of this. So I'm going to read you this little short passage here. So Kep Westgard has time traveled along with his team to take Paul Revere's ride because Paul Revere has been kidnapped by a time traveler who wants England to win in the second round, so to speak, go back and change time. So Kep is getting directions how to take Paul Revere's ride, where to go. And the man that he's talking to, he says, the man put a small X along the route on the map. The first patrol was observed here at Mark's Cage. Mark's Cage? Kep wondered if his brain was fuzzy from exhaustion. Mark's Cage, the man repeated. Don't all you schoolboys visit his bones on a dare? Bones? They left his bones in a cage as a warning to other slaves. Mark had tried to poison his master. His master was evil, the devil himself, but folks aren't too sympathetic to slaves. Kep's thoughts shot to TJ and the slave auctioneer coming. His blood turned icy. Did Fiddler have him out of the city yet? So Mark was a slave who was convicted of trying to poison his master, and he was put alive in a cage and dies there, and his bones are left there. So you read that, you can't read that without your blood feeling a little cold. But the part I want to share with that is, and this is the only way I'm able to sort of keep the two in my head, that I can honor the goodness and at the same time absorb the horrors of it. And what I think was, actually comes right from Mr. Rogers. And he said, whenever you look at a situation that just guts you with a tragedy, with horrors, with bad things, always look for the helpers because there will always be helpers. And in the same story, I also include Prince Hall. And he was the first Mason who created a Black Masons, Black American Masons, and the enormous courage he had, and others. There were people, all different types of people, men and women of all races, who were abolitionists and who were speaking out against the idea of slavery. So I have to honor them, right? And think, wow, that had to be hard to believe you could undo this thing that was so, ugly and so rooted in our economy and in the culture, and to still keep speaking out and speaking out and speaking out. In fact, I was down helping my dad recently because he had knee surgery. This is getting a little long, but I'll just share with you. I didn't realize in his town that Frederick Douglass had come and spoken. And Frederick Douglass would be another one. You think, how did he keep his spirits up? I mean, it must have seemed hopeless at times. Like, how are we going to undo this? How are we really going to put this behind us? And so when I feel gutted, when I even think about slavery, I also at Key West, they have a horrifying exhibit about, it's called The Spirit of Passage, and it's about African slave ships that actually were intercepted by the US Navy. So by 1860, the African slave trade is outlawed in the United States. There is still happening in the United States, but it's been outlawed. And the US Navy actually would intercept African slave ships and help the people. So in that sense, little bits of hope. And you have to just think, whatever we feel gutted about, where we feel like it's hard to hope for the future, to know that there's always people out there who are trying to do the right thing. So anyway, this got a little bit long, but I wanted to share with you that because I think that's an important part of our history. And if you'd like to learn more about Paul Revere's Ride and that part of history, you can read One If by Land, Two If by Submarine, which is on a free Goodreads giveaway right now. Thanks for letting me share. I hope you have a wonderful day.